Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to, cut through the noise and get you really informed on some key topics. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something absolutely foundational. We're talking about the core building blocks of early literacy and language development, specifically for our youngest learners, grades K through 2. Our guide for this journey is this document. Georgia ELA K-2 Evidence Foundations Language.pdf. Now, this isn't just some dry textbook. It's actually a really comprehensive guide. It's packed with practical examples, key vocabulary, instructional strategies. It's basically designed to help educators bring Georgia's K-12 English language arts standards to life in the classroom. So our mission here is to be your shortcut. We're pulling out the most important nuggets, the key insights directly from this guide, hopefully giving you that aha moment without you having to sift through all the pages yourself. Okay, let's jump right in. The document's structured into two main domains. We're going to start by unpacking the foundations domain. So, what's the big picture here? What are young learners really building in this stage?
Right. Well, the foundations domain is exactly what it sounds like. It's all about building that solid base, that bedrock for students to achieve dynamic literacy practices. And ultimately, every single skill we talk about here is designed to, you know, significantly boost reading comprehension later on. Within foundations, there are five key big ideas. Think of them as pillars. We've got phonological awareness, concepts of print, phonics, fluency, and handwriting.
Five pillars. Okay, sounds comprehensive. Let's start with the first one then phonological awareness, or PA. What is that exactly?
PA is all about sound. It's the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate the sound structures of spoken language. So it's about listening, understanding how sounds can be broken apart, put together, changed around, all in your head. It's purely auditory, no letters yet.
Okay, so hearing the sounds before seeing the letters. And the document says it starts with something pretty basic. Rhyme. Why is just listening for sounds that are the same or different? Why is that so important for a kindergartner? What does that unlock?
It's absolutely crucial because it trains the ear. It helps kids start to notice patterns in the sounds of language. When a child hears that cat and mat rhyme, they aren't just, having fun. They're building an internal sound map and doing things like reading nursery rhymes, singing songs, maybe doing hand motions when they hear rhyming words. That really develops that foundational ear training. It even helps with things like inflection, pitch, rhythm. The cadence of language makes their own speech sound more natural, too.
That makes a lot of sense. So they start hearing rhymes. How do we then get them to understand how sounds combine into words and then sentences?
Good question. So from rhymes, we move into understanding words and sentences as distinct units. It's about grasping that spoken language isn't just one long stream of sound, right? It's made up of individual words, and those words carry meaning. You might see a teacher having kids clap for each word in a sentence, like my clap dog clap plays clap.
Yeah.
Get the idea?
Yeah.
Or maybe moving little blocks or counters for each word. Seems simple, but it's a huge conceptual leap.
Okay, so individual words. Then the guide mentions compound words like doghouse or sunflower. How do they fit in? What's the jump there?
Compound words are a great bridge. They help kids learn to identify and manipulate two whole words that have been combined into one new word. You might use pictures, a picture of a dog, a picture of a house, put them together.
Hmm.
Doghouse. This really supports the more complex PA skills because it gets them used to hearing and working with larger chunks within words. It sets the stage beautifully for syllables.
Syllables. Right, the word parts. How do you help a child hear the parts in a word like, say, water?
Exactly. Syllables teach kids that spoken words are made of these parts. For kindergartners, it might just be clapping their name. Jula, clap, or blending parts they hear. Wa and ter makes water. Then in first grade, they start manipulating them, like, say, hamper. Okay, now say it without the ham. What's left? Per.
Wow, okay.
And this skill is incredibly important because it directly helps them decode longer multisyllabic words when they start reading.
So we've gone from whole words, compound words, syllables. Then the outline mentions onsets and rhymes. What's that? Even smaller pieces.
You got it. Smaller pieces within a syllable, usually in one-syllable words. The onset is the initial consonant sound, like the B in big. The rhymes, the vowel, and the consonants that follow, like the ig. So you practice blending B and ig to make big, or segmenting mop into M and op. You also work on changing the onset turn BA into flurwy. Recognizing these common rhyme patterns, these word families, is huge for reading and spelling later on.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. We've covered rhymes, word length, syllables, onsets, rhymes. But the one that always comes up as the gold standard predictor is phonemic awareness. Why is working with those individual sounds, the phonemes, why is that so critical? Why is it such a strong predictor of reading success?
That really is the key question. Phonemic awareness is the most advanced phonological skill. It's the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate the smallest individual sounds in spoken words. Not just word parts, but the single sounds, like pulling out the S sound in sun. And research consistently shows that a child's ability to do this, to blend S-T-O-N into stone or segment stone back into those sounds,
Mm-hmm.
or even change sounds, like changing the N in stone to a V to make stove. That ability is one of the strongest predictors of how well they'll learn to read.
Oh.
It's about having that cognitive flexibility to really hear the hidden structure of spoken words that's essential for mapping sounds to letters later.
That clicks. Okay, so once they have this amazing internal sound lab going, what's next? How do these tiny sound skills build into something bigger, like actually reading print on a page?
That perfectly sets up our second pillar, concepts of print, CP. This is where kids develop that crucial awareness that written language, the print itself, carries meaning. It's the bridge from knowing sounds in the air to understanding that those squiggles on paper actually represent those sounds and convey messages. It's about understanding how print works.
So realizing that the words and pictures aren't just decoration, they actually communicate something. Like understanding a wet floor sign means, well, the floor is wet.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. It's realizing texts and images communicate. It involves knowing the difference between letters, words, numbers, pictures. So a child explaining that sign, or maybe counting the letters in their name, or pointing to the 5 in "I eat 5 cookies," that's concepts of print in action. It's their first real interaction with print as information.
And from understanding that print means something, they learn how to actually handle a book, right? Which
Yeah.
way is up, front to back.
Yes, exactly. That's book orientation and directionality. Kids learn the conventions,
Mm-hmm.
hold the book right side up, start at the front, turn pages right to left, read lines from top to bottom, and read across the line from left to right. Very important. Plus, identifying the cover, the author, the illustrator. It's about building that physical relationship with how books and text are organized. Sometimes teachers put like a little green sticker on the top left of a desk or page to remind them where to start.
Simple but effective. Okay, then we get into the real nitty-gritty, the mechanics of print. Spaces between words, capital letters, punctuation. What's the big idea there?
The big idea is that print has rules that make it readable. It's not just a jumble. They learn that words are groups of letters separated by spaces. That sentences start with a capital letter and end with punctuation, like a period or question mark. A teacher might show a sentence all smooshed together to demonstrate why spaces matter, or have kids point to the capital letter at the beginning and a period at the end. It's learning the rules of the road.
Makes sense. And then the absolute bedrock, the alphabet itself. What's the goal with alphabet knowledge in K-2? Just reciting ABC?
Oh, much more than reciting. The goal is quick, automatic recognition of all the letters, both uppercase and lowercase, in any order. So instantly knowing B, whether it's B or B, whether it's first or last in a word, this skill, alphabet knowledge, is another really strong predictor of reading success because letters are the symbols that connect to all those sounds they've been learning.
Okay, so we've gone from hearing sounds to understanding how print works. Now it's time to really connect those dots. This brings us to the third pillar, phonics, taking the sounds and linking them directly to the letters. Why is that connection so critical?
This is where it all comes together. Phonics is the bridge. It connects the sounds of spoken language, the phonemes, to the letters or letter combinations of written language, the graphemes. Without phonics, a child might know the sound B and recognize the letter B, but they wouldn't know how to use that knowledge to read the word bat. It's absolutely essential for both decoding, figuring out how to read words, and encoding, figuring out how to spell words.
And the foundation of phonics is learning those specific sound letter links, right? Phoneme-grapheme correspondences. How does that develop from K to 2?
It's very systematic. In kindergarten, they focus on the most common consonant sounds and short vowel sounds, like B says B, A says I. First grade gets more complex. Consonant blends like B, L, them, digraphs like she, the silent ears making vowels long. By second grade, they're covering all the consonant sounds. More vowel teams are controlled vowels like in car, diphthongs like oi and oil. Teachers might use games like I Spy with beginning sounds or build letters with Play-Doh. It's consistent daily practice making those links strong.
So once they know those sound letter links, they can start decoding, actually reading words. How does that look in practice?
Decoding is where the rubber meets the road, like you said. It's applying their phonemic awareness skills, like blending sounds together,
Oh.
along with their phonics knowledge of those letter patterns, to read words accurately. So a kindergartner reading up or ram, a first grader reading that, or maybe even a nonsense word like chope. to test the pattern knowledge. By second grade, they're tackling multisyllabic words like teacher or cradle, breaking them into parts to read them. Quick, accurate decoding is the gateway to fluency and comprehension.
And the flip side of decoding is encoding, which is basically spelling. How does phonics support strong spelling?
Encoding is decoding in reverse. Instead of blending sounds to read, they're segmenting sounds to spell. They hear a word, break it into its individual phonemes, and then use their phonics knowledge to write the letters that represent those sounds. A kindergartner spelling at or top, a first grader spelling this, second graders tackling words like tiger or flower based on syllable patterns and sounds. When spelling becomes more automatic, it frees up their brain power to think about the ideas they want to write, not just how to form the words. And that leads us nicely into the fourth pillar, fluency, which is essentially reading smoothly.
Right. Speed, accuracy, and expression. And the big deal here is it lets kids focus on understanding the text, not just sounding out words. How does that develop?
Exactly. It frees up cognitive resources for comprehension. In kindergarten, fluency might just mean reading familiar names or maybe choral reading short sentences with appropriate volume and pace, getting comfortable. First grade adds a focus on accuracy, aiming for like 95% correct and prosody. That's the expressive reading that shows they get the meaning. Pausing appropriately, using expression. They also start self-correcting more. By second grade, the goal is more automaticity, even with complex text. Reading should start feeling, well, effortless. Teachers model fluent reading all the time and use strategies like repeated readings or partner reading to build that smooth, accurate skill. Okay, last pillar in foundations, handwriting. This is about actually forming the letters.
And it really emphasizes those fine motor skills, doesn't it? Getting the muscles ready. What's the progression in forming letters and words?
It absolutely depends on fine motor development. In K, it's about learning the correct motor pathways for each letter, explicit modeling. For M, start the midline, pull down, up and over, up and over. First grade focuses on accuracy and consistency, forming words like ship legibly and with proper spacing between letters and words. By second grade, it's about efficiency, writing sentences like, the toy made a loud noise, fluidly and legibly. They use tactile stuff too, writing in sand, shaving cream, air writing, and activities to build those hand muscles, like using tweezers or Play-Doh. And building on just forming letters, the bigger goal is transcription fluency, handwriting fluency. Meaning students can get thoughts down on paper quickly and accurately without having to consciously think about how to make each letter. When handwriting becomes automatic, their working memory is free to focus on what they want to say, the content, the ideas, the vocabulary, the sentence structure. Imagine a second grader writing, on the weekend I like to swim, bike, and read, without struggling over letter formation. That's the goal.
So, putting it all together, what does this mean? It's incredibly clear that building these foundational skills is this highly structured, really multifaceted journey. It seems like every tiny piece, from hearing a rhyme to forming a letter correctly, connects to the bigger picture of reading and writing. It's creating this really robust framework.
That's it, exactly. The interconnectedness is key. None of these 5 pillars, PA, concepts of print, phonics, fluency, handwriting, works in isolation.
Yeah.
They're constantly reinforcing each other, building layer upon layer of understanding. It's like building a complex machine where every gear has to mesh perfectly for it to run smoothly. That's early literacy success. Okay, so that covers the foundations domain. Shall we shift gears to the second major domain, language?
Let's do it. So, language, what's the focus here after they've got those foundational mechanics?
Language is where students move beyond just decoding and encoding and really learn how to use English effectively. They learn and apply the structures, the conventions of standard English grammar. They observe how it works, build richer vocabularies, and learn how to figure out word meanings. And within language, there are 2 main big ideas: grammar conventions and vocabulary.
Okay, grammar conventions first. Often called GUM grammar, usage, mechanics. What's the core goal with grammar in these early grades, K through 2?
The core goal is building a solid foundation in standard English for both speaking and writing. It's not just about memorizing rules, it's about understanding how grammar helps us make sense of texts and create clear messages ourselves. And the range of skills introduced is pretty amazing. Kindergartners start identifying nouns and verbs. They learn about plurals with mess, basic verb endings like in, capitalizing the start of sentences, using periods.
Wow, starting early.
Oh yeah. Then first and second grade, add things like common and proper nouns, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, different verb tenses, prepositions, commas and dates or series, apostrophes for contractions. It builds systematically.
It is fascinating how detailed it is so early on. What does it look like when a child really starts using these grammar rules, not just pointing them out?
That's the key application. So instead of just saying cow is a noun and the cow jumped over the moon, a first grader might explain why you add S to cat to make it plural, or why climbed has ed, because it happened yesterday. By second grade, they're not just spotting the adjective giant in Edna ate 12 giant donuts. They're using adjectives and maybe adverbs effectively in their own sentences. They're learning to use these tools purposefully, and that connects directly to the next standard, syntax. Basically, how to build good sentences. What's the focus there?
Making sure sentences actually make sense and express complete thoughts.
Precisely. Syntax is about sentence structure. It helps kids develop syntactic awareness, understanding how words need to be ordered to make sense. For the youngest kids, it might be identifying the who, subject, and action, predicate, in a simple sentence like, Molly marched, then learning to expand it, Molly marched quickly, or Molly marched down the street. As they get older, they learn to combine simple sentences, elephants are large, elephants move slowly, into more complex ones. Elephants are large, so they do not move quickly. Or elaborate sentences like turning Edna found her dog, but he was dirty, into something much richer. Edna found her small, furry dog, but he was covered in sticky burrs and gooey mud.
It's really impressive how it moves from basic rules to crafting sophisticated meaning.
Exactly. And crafting meaning requires words, which brings us to the final big idea in the language domain, vocabulary. This isn't just about memorizing lists of words. It's about acquiring and using vocabulary with accuracy and precision. Always learning words in context. They explore everyday words, academic words they'll see across subjects, and even subject-specific specialized terms.
So not just learning lizard, but understanding it in the context of the green lizard shed his skin. How do teachers help kids build that kind of deep word knowledge?
It's all about rich context and multiple exposures. Lots of reading aloud, where the teacher models new words, providing many chances to hear and use the words, connecting them to real life, like defining cozy and asking kids about something cozy at home, using visuals, movement, sorting words from a story into everyday words like tree versus special vocabulary like lichen or fungus. By second grade, you want to see them actually using words like hilarious or devastated or glanced in their own speaking and writing. It's about building real word consciousness.
And part of that consciousness, starting in first grade, is word analysis, understanding how words are built, like with prefixes and suffixes.
Yes, that's morphology, the study of word parts. Kids learn to spot common root words and affixes, prefixes and suffixes. It's like being a word detective. If you know help, you can figure out helpful or unhelpful or helpless. They learn the meanings of common prefixes like d again, or did not, and suffixes like noneful, like full of, not. They might break words apart. Unhelpful, or use the word some, un plus help plus false unhelpful. This drastically expands their ability to figure out new words and build vocabulary. Okay, and the last piece under vocabulary is meaning and purpose. This sounds like figure out what words mean from the sentence.
And maybe using dictionaries.
Both, exactly. It's understanding that context clues within a sentence can help you figure out an unknown word, like the dragon was delighted with his dinner. Figuring out delighted means very happy. They also explore synonyms and antonyms and those tricky shades of meaning, like how is walk different from stroll or march or trudge?
Ah, subtle differences.
Right. And they learn to use reference tools, maybe picture dictionaries early on, then glossaries and simple children's dictionaries to confirm meanings and choose the best word when they speak or write. Learning how to navigate those resources is a skill itself.
This raises a really important question then. How does this whole progression of vocabulary skills, understanding context, analyzing word parts, exploring shades of meaning, how does that empower these young kids to do more than just read the words? How does it help them truly understand complex texts and express themselves clearly as they grow?
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? It's transformative. It shifts them from just decoding symbols on a page to actively constructing meaning from text. And just as importantly, it gives them the tools to express their own increasingly complex thoughts and ideas with precision and clarity. This deep engagement with word meaning is what allows them to become truly active, critical readers and thoughtful, articulate communicators.
Wow. This whole deep dive really has shone a light on just how detailed and interconnected this path to literacy is in K-2, from the very basic mechanics of sounds and letters all the way through the nuances of grammar and vocabulary, this guide really maps out a comprehensive approach.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember this document is a tool for educators. It's full of concrete examples, practical strategies, but it's designed to be flexible, adaptable to the needs of real kids in real classrooms. It provides that consistent framework.
It really does. Thinking about it, consider how these early, seemingly simple building blocks, like clapping syllables or knowing un, means not how they lay this incredibly intricate foundation. It sets the stage for a lifetime of critical thinking, effective communication, and maybe even a deep appreciation for language itself. What might that look like in 10 or 20 years for a child who truly gets these foundations? How could that ability to understand deeply, articulate clearly, and connect through language shape their future? It's pretty profound when you think about it. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.